Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC. Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Akam. We are broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning, and we have a lot to cover, a lot of breaking news coming in from last night. We have a couple of updates on the No Kings protest. Also, there is a major push for Sliwa to step aside. We're going to tell you about that, really coming as no surprise, but we're not going to focus too much on the mayor's race, but definitely, I think, worth mentioning. We're going to start with viewer comments, but don't forget, later on in the program, we're going to be talking with Robert Siglin. He is running for Elmira City Court Judge. He'll be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. We have a busy week of guests. Wednesday, tomorrow, we're going to be talking with Chemung County Sheriff Bill Schramm. Looking forward to talking with him. Thursday, Jordan York, also running for Elmira City Court Judge. He'll be joining us on Thursday. Friday, Greg Tranter. Now, Greg Tranter is a historian, specifically a sports historian, and even more specifically, a Bills historian. He's got a new book coming out. There you go. One Bills Drive, the Buffalo Bills' greatest home games. He'll be joining us on Friday because the Bills play right here on Fox this weekend, but also because I want to hear all about his amazing story. All right, let's get to some viewer comments. This came in after yesterday's broadcast. Hi, Frank. Good Monday show. Well, thank you. After the show this morning, I'm now watching President Trump speaking with reporters aboard Air Force One. The interview took place on Sunday night. He yet again mentioned that crime is down in D.C., for example. So it occurred to me to ask if there is any statistics regarding any increase of crime in the countries where the illegal aliens were returned. I think this is a fair question and an interesting one. It is a fair question and it is an interesting one. I don't think there are those numbers. In many instances when they were returned, if they were criminal, they were put into a prison type scenario. But I have not seen any stats. It seems like if there were easy access to those type of statistics, the president would have shared them by now. But I don't have that. But I think that is a fair question. I think it would be a great question to know the answer to. Good morning, Frank. Steve here. Well, hey, good morning, Steve. Good to hear from you. Maybe someone can make some logical sense of this. Let's go march in the No Kings Parade. Trump is a dictator. He is trying to control our lives. Hey, the election is about here. I'm going to go vote for a self-proclaimed socialist communist that hangs out with imam that has been under investigation. I'm going to dictate what you have to pay and what people will pay in taxes because they don't pay enough. Everything is going to be free till the money runs out. Vote for me, yay. Y'all make absolutely positively 0 cents. Go ahead and make this logical. Thank you, Steve. We're going to be talking about the No Kings protest over the weekend, or not over the weekend, excuse me, on Monday, yesterday. Representative Jamie Raskins from Maryland, he declared the No King protests were totally positive, totally patriotic. Jansing, the host of Chris Jansing Reports on MSNBC, said, you spoke at the rally in Philadelphia. Does what you saw support the argument that this was a hate America rally? Because many people are calling it that. And we saw some of that anger. We saw some of that hate. But Raskin said, quote, on the contrary, it was, of course, totally positive, totally patriotic, and totally supportive of us getting the American government back in business again, reopening and supporting the health care of the American people and supporting the federal workforce. And, you know, I kicked off by saying that Speaker Johnson was talking about a Hate America rally, but that one had already taken place on January 6, 2021, when Trump incited a mob of insurrectionists who violently assaulted our police officers, wounding and injuring more than 140 of them in order to overturn a presidential election he lost by more than 7 million votes. That's what a Hate America rally looks like. This is what a Love America movement looks like. This is right now the largest set of demonstrators that's ever occurred in American history. I don't know that there's ever been 7 million people who've assembled in unity against an administration that's been so determined to violate the civil rights and civil liberties of the people, usurp the powers of Congress, and trample on the Constitution, as well as shut down the U.S. government. So these are definitely movement conditions, and we have tremendous focus and unity within our party to hang tough for Medicaid for the American people, to hang tough for the monthly premium tax credits that are part of the Affordable Care Act. I think you would have to ignore the Tea Party demonstrations to suggest that this is the largest in history. Again, it was set up a little bit different. Just we take anecdotally here in our local area. Let's say you had, these are all just made up numbers because I did not attend, but let's say you had 200 people in Elmira. Those same 200 could then join, because of the staggered times, their neighbors in Corning and be a part of it, so those numbers do get inflated. That's just one instance in our backyard. But 7 million, I guess, is the number that they are throwing around for the No Kings protest. We're going to be talking about it more in depth a little bit later on, but I want to get through some breaking news this morning. President Trump can move forward with his plan to deploy the National Guard troops to Portland. This is a big win for the president. This coming from an appeals court ruling on Monday. A 3-member panel of the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals delivered the 2-1 decision, striking down one of 2 temporary restraining orders issued by lower courts that halted the National Guard deployment to the ultra-woke city. Judge Ryan Nelson and Judge Bridget Bade, both appointed by Trump, sided with the president, who has continued to push for the federal troops into Democratic-led cities, saying, and I quote, "After considering the record at this preliminary stage, we conclude that it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority under," I'm not going to read the whole code, "which authorizes the federalization of the National Guard when the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States," the majority said in their ruling. During oral arguments, Nelson added that it may well be that forces are used in an improper way, but claimed that the court didn't have evidence of that. The lone dissenter was a judge appointed by former President, I'll give you a second, Bill Clinton. That's 2 Bill Clintons we've had in the last couple of weeks. A federal judge in Oregon previously blocked the National Guard deployment to Portland in early October. The judge cited Trump's decision as being untethered to reality in her emergency order and wrote that he is risking blurring the line between civil and military federal power to the detriment of the nation. The White House then accused a judge of being untethered in reality in a scathing response before pivoting to the appeals court. So that is a major legal victory for this administration. Trump can deploy the National Guard to Portland, Oregon. That's according to the 9th Circuit Court. Also, we learned to kind of tie these in together, and that's the National Guard. I know it's a little bit different, but we've talked about ICE. We've talked about these instances. We are learning this morning that with over 500,000 illegal aliens deported since President Donald Trump took office in January, the administration is on track to significantly exceed the record number of illegals deported out of the United States. Since he was sworn in on January 20th, the administration has deported over 515,000 illegal aliens, according to a high-ranking official at the Department of Homeland Security. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin told Fox News Digital that the administration is on pace to shatter historic records by deporting 600,000 illegals by the end of Trump's first year back in office. She said that in total, more than 2 million illegal aliens have left the U.S., including 1.6 million who voluntarily self-deported, as well as over 515,000 deportations. Another 485,000 illegal aliens have been arrested by DHS since Trump took office. And McLaughlin said that this is just the beginning, and that the Trump and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, quote, have jump-started an agency that was vilified and barred from doing its job for the last 4 years. And speaking of that, in Chicago, a Chicago area judge has ruled that immigration and customs enforcement officers can be arrested at Cook County courthouses if they violate his orders and arrest a migrant without a warrant. U.S. District Judge Jeffrey Cummings ordered that ICE officers are barred from arresting migrants at courthouses if they don't have a warrant. He also ordered that federal law enforcement can be arrested if they violate his order. The judge, the judge's order aimed to prevent what they are calling collateral arrests of people whom ICE officers discover are illegal on the spot. These are migrants that ICE agents come across by happenstance while looking for someone they have a warrant to apprehend at the court. He said he must place these restrictions on ICE agents because it will keep witnesses and suspects, making them feel safe. Quote, the fair administration of justice requires that courts remain open and accessible and that litigants and witnesses may appear without fear of civil arrest. Judge Cummings also cited in his ruling arrests that have made recently that have been recently made outside of county courthouses where ICE is taking collateral migrants into custody. One thing seems clear. ICE rousted American citizens from their apartments during the middle of the night and detained them in zip ties, no less, for far longer than the brief period authorized by the operative regulation. The Department of Homeland Security said it intends to comply with all lawful court orders and is addressing this matter with the court. However, DHS defended its practice of taking collateral migrants into custody, saying, "We aren't some medieval kingdom. There are no legal sanctuaries where you can hide and avoid the consequences for breaking the laws. Nothing in the Constitution prohibits arresting a lawbreaker where you find them." Also, tying that in with illegal immigration to kick off this morning's program, we've got a lot of other topics to discuss as well. But just to wrap up this little segment, a Texas election review has identified thousands of illegal immigrants on the state's voter rolls, according to Texas Secretary of State Jane Nelson. Nelson said a cross-check of state voter records found that more than 2,700 possible illegal immigrants were registered on the voter rolls, leading to an eligibility review across the 254 counties. The data came from a full comparison of Texas's 18 million registered voters against federal citizenship records. Quote, "Only eligible United States citizens may participate in our elections," Nelson said. The Trump administration's decision to give states free and direct access to this data for the first time has been a game changer, and we appreciate the partnership with the federal government to verify the citizenship of those on our voter rolls and maintain accurate voter lists. So if that's in Texas, conservative Texas, imagine what the voting rolls would look like in a state like New York that is happy to give driver's licenses to people that give their name as no name given. So you wonder what our voting rolls would look like. All right, that was just kind of a quick look at some topics, and we've got a lot more. And we're just getting started. Thanks for joining us this morning. We'll be right back. Oh, one other breaking story I wanted to mention. Hold on. Did you see, we know China's clamping down on these rare earth minerals. Well, President Trump and the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese signed an agreement yesterday, which the White House describes as a framework with plans for projects worth up to $8.5 billion combined. It calls for each country to invest $1 billion in some of those projects within the next 6 months. But China, of course, still dominates, currently controlling 70% of rare earth mining and 90% of the processing, and access to them will likely be a big part of the discussion when Trump meets with China's president next week. All right, just throwing all the breaking stories. We got a couple others here, too. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan. Water you love.
Experience scary good deals this October only at Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships of Mansfield. 7 great brands at one convenient location. If a used vehicle is what you're looking for, we have 200 in stock and thousands more available at our fingertips, with prices as low as $6,500. And get up to 20% over KBB trade value on your trade-in today. Don't miss out on this year's Trunk or Treat, October 24th, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at all 3 of our Mansfield locations. So don't get haunted by high prices. Save some green off Route 15 in Mansfield while we're taking the deals the other guys won't.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the Southern Tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today, for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments, shall we? Here we go. Cleveland Cliffs CEO Lorenzo Goncalves announced plans to explore rare earth mineral production at sites in Michigan and Minnesota amid China's export controls. Thank you for that. Different viewer here. 2 million illegals out, 28 million to go. At that rate, we still have 20 million left after Trump's term. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. I love legal immigrants, especially those that love our country. I dislike criminals that put themselves ahead of others. People that come in the right way are more likely to contribute to society and follow laws. They're more likely to learn English and apply for citizenship. They are way less likely to commit any crime. Tell me why Democrats believe that people that come illegally deserve to be ahead of legal immigrants. Illegal immigrants are more likely to bring drugs because they owe people for crossing. They're more likely to traffic minors because they owe the cartels. They're more likely to commit sexual crimes because they were involved in crime in their own country. That's why they claim they can't go back. It's almost like Democrats are complicit and possibly involved, given how much taxpayer money they have given to the NGOs to traffic them here. Also, why did the Biden administration fly them here in the middle of the night? So kind of drop the party line on it, they're saying, the party talking points. We got a lot more comments coming in. Keep on coming in. Hey, this is interesting. Your thoughts on this. The Trump administration says it is canceling student debt for millions of borrowers, a pivot from its previous moves to block some loan forgiveness plans. In agreement with the American Federation of Teachers, the White House will again start processing student loan forgiveness for eligible borrowers in two income-driven repayment plans: income contingent repayment and pay as you earn until they expire. President Trump's big, beautiful bill is slated to phase out those two programs by July 1st, 2028. They have over 2.5 million enrollees total. A higher education expert made that estimate. This is a tremendous win for borrowers. With today's filing, borrowers can rest a little easier, said Winston Berkman-Breen, legal director for Protect Borrowers, which acted as counsel for the teachers union. The U.S. Department of Education has agreed to follow the law and deliver congressionally mandated affordable payment and debt relief to hardworking public service workers across the country, and will do so under court supervision. We fully intend to hold them to their word. Under Friday's agreement, borrowers who become eligible for student loan forgiveness this year will not owe federal taxes on the relief, according to the Trump administration. The Department of Education has not immediately responded for a comment. So there you are. That's a breaking story coming in last night. The White House agrees to cancel student debt for millions of borrowers, and quite a pivot there. Also, as we go through breaking stories, James Comey has asked a judge to dismiss the federal charges against him, arguing that it is a, quote, vindictive and selective prosecution, and that U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan was appointed unlawfully. Now we know Comey, I believe it was on Friday, pleaded not guilty to the charges against him. But his lawyers claimed his prosecution is purely personal. Quote, the government has singled out Mr. Comey for prosecution because of his protected speech and because of President Trump's personal animus towards Mr. Comey. That's according to his lawyer. Comey's lawyers contend that Trump ordered the DOJ to prosecute their client because of personal spite and because Mr. Comey has frequently criticized the president for his conduct in office. When no career prosecutor would carry out those orders, the president publicly forced the interim U.S. attorney to resign and directed the attorney general to find justice against Mr. Comey. Comey's legal team cites Trump's September 20th Truth Social. Yada, yada, yada. So we'll keep an eye on that. Not really a surprise. I think we expected these type of moves from Mr. Comey, but I wanted to pass them along to you as that unfolds. Also, we're going to talk about some international sources. I'm moving quick this morning. I better settle in. We'll be out of stories. No, I'm just kidding. There's always plenty to talk about. But I'm really looking forward to, in a way, talking about the No Kings protest, because there's a couple really, really good opinion pieces on that. Also, with everything happening with the peace deal, and obviously there's been some hitches along the way, but we wonder where the ceasefire now crowd has been. I've got a couple of quick kind of opinion pieces on that. But according to Fox News, and this is first on Fox, a former longtime Navy SEAL and fifth-generation Kentucky farmer who is backed by President Trump declared yesterday that he is running for the 4th Congressional District, meaning he'll be challenging Republican Representative Thomas Massie. Now, we know Thomas Massie has been really the fly in the ointment for Republicans for quite some time, specifically for Trump. Ed Gallerin said in a statement, "I've dedicated my life to serving my country, and I'm ready to answer the call again." And pointing to Massie, a frequent GOP critic of the president, he said, "This district is Trump country. The president doesn't need obstacles in Congress. He needs backup. I'll defeat Thomas Massie, stand shoulder to shoulder with President Trump, and deliver the America First results Kentuckians voted for." The campaign launch comes 4 days after Trump took to social media to praise Gallerin, urging him to run, and then blasting Massie, saying that Massie was a third-rate congressman, a weak and pathetic rhino, and totally ineffective loser who has failed us so badly. Then he applauded Gallerin, calling him a brave combat veteran and a very successful businessman who, if elected to Congress, would fight tirelessly to keep our now very secure border secure, stop migrant crime, and defend our always under siege Second Amendment. Now, Gallerin served 3 decades in uniform, rising to the rank of captain. He served multiple times on SEAL Team 6, deploying to Panama, Afghanistan, and Iraq, and earned 4 Bronze Stars and 2 Presidential Unit citations. It'll be interesting to see how this campaign goes. We know Massie has received a lot of criticism from his own party. His campaign release also highlighted that Gallerin's roots run deep in Kentucky. Massie took aim at Gallerin following Trump's social media endorsement, calling him a failed candidate and establishment hack. After having been rejected by every elected official in the 4th District, Trump's consultants clearly pushed the panic button with their choice of failed candidate and establishment hack Ed Gallerin. Ed's been begging them to pick him for over 3 months now. We don't have to go through all the times that Massie has been detrimental to the America First agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about international stories and it ties in with, unfortunately, domestic protests as well. We're going to talk about, there's been numerous examples of this almost, and I hate to word it this way, but I can't think of any other way to word it, but the celebration, if you will, of Charlie Kirk's assassination by many on the far left, and now we learn many in academia. We're going to talk about that quickly because it ties in really, in my opinion, with the No Kings rally, because the same kind of left-wing ideology leads to the attack, for instance, on Turning Point USA table. I'm going to tell you all about it. I don't want to run too late. What's your thoughts, though? I have at least 3, maybe 4 examples this morning of various organizations calling for Curtis Sliwa to step aside for what they say is the betterment of New York. We even have Republicans, and I'll let you be the judge, saying fellow Republicans, vote for Cuomo. They believe because of that recent polling that showed without Sliwa, Cuomo is still down, but within kind of biting distance. Your thoughts on that? We're not going to talk too much about it on the program, but we do have to talk about it. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
I see it all, but I'm human.
How can I keep going like this?
Who will listen to me when no one gets it?
Is there a safe space for me?
How will I handle it all?
We all have a reason. 988 can help you find it. We hear you. Call, text, or chat 988 for emotional support and crisis services. It's free, confidential, and here for you 24/7.
When you're online, don't forget to Visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Young's Tires is the leading tire dealer and auto repair shop in the area. Young's Tires has been serving the area for over 50 years. Trust the team at Young's Tires and Horseheads to keep you and your family safe on the road. From pumpkin patches to scenic views, let Michelin Tires guide you to a world of cozy destinations. Get up to $60 via reward card or virtual prepaid card on purchase of 4 or more new Michelin passenger or light truck tires totaling $900 or more. Offer valid 8/28/2025 through 9/23/2025.
From the toughest creature to the mightiest giant, every species shapes our world. Bees pollinate our plants, elephants keep forests healthy, and coral reefs protect our shores. When wildlife thrives, so do we. We all have a role to play in keeping nature strong. Together, we can protect wildlife and build a future where people and nature thrive. Find out how at wwf.earth/species.
In a few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Let's go to some viewer comments, shall we? Oh, I think I missed a couple. All right. Don't think I'm skipping over yours. There's a couple that came in right at the last second. But we'll get to those in the next segment. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. I see J.D. Vance is heading to Israel to work on the peace deal. That's great. J.D. Vance would be great at that. I did not see that. That's great. Thank you for passing that along, Mark. Coming from a different viewer, like Sliwa told Cuomo, he said, Cuomo, go get your own votes. Yeah, I thought that was an important line from Sliwa, and I think you're exactly right. Saying, hey, and it wasn't just Sliwa saying it. It was other Republicans, too, saying, well, get your own votes. This is not Sliwa's responsibility to save you, Cuomo. Cuomo, you'd have maybe, I wouldn't, but I was going to say you may have a little more sympathy if he wasn't so arrogant and cocky in the primaries and actually ran to where he could have potentially won, and we wouldn't have this scenario in the first place. So now he gets himself into this mess, and it's Sliwa's responsibility. I'm with you, viewer. Thank you. Here's from a different viewer. Some good news for your feed today. The national average price for gas has dropped to $2.98 per gallon, the lowest for October since 2020, marking a 19.3 cent decrease from last month and a 15.2 cent decrease from last year. In Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the average price is $3.12 per gallon, about 7 cents lower than the previous week, with the lowest reported price as well. OPEC has increased oil production, influencing lower prices. The transition to winter blend gasoline, which is cheaper to produce, but also contributed to the decrease. Analysts predict that gas prices may remain below $3 for the coming months unless significant disruptions occur, potentially reaching their lowest since 2021. Thank you for that. That is great news. Wow, so many comments coming. I love this, folks. Thank you so much. We're going to get to them in the next segment. Don't worry, that's coming up in moments because I keep running late this morning. So Trump saying yesterday that Hamas must be good or be eradicated. They're violent people. Hamas has been very violent, but they don't have the backing of Iran anymore. They don't have the backing of really anybody anymore. They have to be good, and if they're not good, they will be eradicated. Trump made that threat as his special envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner hold meetings in Israel with regional leaders to keep the 20-point peace deal on track. Witkoff and Kushner's meeting Monday included a sit-down with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. There we go. To Mark's point, Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to land in Israel today. Wow. To add additional pressure to keep Trump's 20-point peace plan on track. I've got to say, forgive me for not knowing that, but in a Trump news cycle, it is impossible. You blink and you miss a story like that, right? So I'm glad you brought it to my attention. Now, Israel rejected Hamas's excuses, saying, and this is Sash Bedrosian, spokesman for Benjamin Netanyahu's office, said no one misplaces people they kidnapped. She added the publications that repeated Hamas's claims that could not locate the corpses had become part of the propaganda by the group, just like when we see mainstream media so often report on the Gazan Health Ministry, which is just a propaganda wing of Hamas. The Wall Street Journal published an article last week saying why finding all the bodies of the Gaza hostages is so hard. It reported Hamas has told mediators that recovering the bodies would take weeks and require heavy equipment such as bulldozers and excavators, which aren't currently permitted to enter Gaza. Since January, the group has said it lost contact with some cells holding hostages amid the fighting, adding to another obstacle. Of the 28 bodies, Hamas has only returned 12 as of Monday afternoon local time, and was rumored to be preparing to return a 13th. There are international teams that are combing through wreckage in Gaza looking for bodies of hostages. Bedrosian stressed that Israel will not accept any violations of the ceasefire and cited other examples of violations, including dozens of incursions by Hamas terrorists into the area of eastern Gaza beyond the Yellow Line. But no one misplaces people that they kidnap. Zachary Marshall asks, I think, a very good question before we talk about the protests, other protests that are happening here, like the No Kings protest. Zachary says the Israel-Hamas ceasefire has many hurdles to clear before it can be deemed a success. Yet, if it does succeed, its consequences will reverberate far beyond the Middle East, reshaping our own domestic policies, especially the anti-Israel activism in higher education. Yes, as we've mentioned numerous times on this program, faculty, staff promoting the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses. As a matter of fact, Harvard standing so firmly with the anti-Semitic protesters that the president took a 25% pay cut. But for 2 years, anti-Israel activists in the U.S. anchored their protests in the war itself. Their ceasefire now slogan depended on the war's persistence to maintain moral urgency. Activists didn't anticipate a ceasefire actually taking hold, and their silence following the deal's announcement exposed the disingenuousness of their calls for peace. Rather than celebrate an end to hostilities, the left is now struggling to reconcile its rhetoric with a reality shaped by a president it vehemently opposes. And that's why some of the shift went to the No Kings protest on Saturday, which we'll talk about. And I think the New York Post has almost a better way to word this, but I thought Zachary Marshall's piece here is very interesting. Last week, Students for Justice in Palestine called for the death of Palestinians who don't support Hamas, which the Stanford University chapter reposted on Instagram. Students for Justice in Palestine used the killing of pro-Hamas influencer Salil al-Jafari in a skirmish with anti-Hamas Gazans to call for death to collaborators or those Palestinians who resist against the terrorist regime. The Stanford chapter reposted the nation's national organization statement with no regard for human life being slaughtered by Hamas. The anti-Israel left's dissonance is partly the product of decades of intellectual manipulation in higher education. Universities have long pushed a false binary framing of the Israel-Palestine conflict. White versus brown, colonizer versus colonized, Muslim versus non-Muslim. This reductionist lens erases Israel's multiracial composition and its long history of subjugation under imperial powers, from Rome to the Ottoman Empire to the British Empire, not to mention the slaughter of a third of the global Jewish population during the Holocaust. By erroneously reducing Middle East conflict to Israel versus everyone else, academia left students ill-equipped to understand why Sunni Arab states such as Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Jordan supported Israel while Iran launched its 2024 attack. The reality is that the Middle East is a web of conflicts, too layered and complex for rhyming slogans that we heard so much about. I thought that was a very important point that they're making. Today's campus protesters can't see, for example, that an end to one war does not resolve the rest of the Middle East's enduring problem. Anti-Israel campus protests, which ignited a wave of anti-Semitism after October 7th, have operated entirely with a simplistic ideological framework. Student activists never thought to pressure Egypt or Jordan about their refusal to accept Palestinians within their border or to demand Hamas return hostages and stand down for the sake of fellow Gazans. Instead, they focused their ire on American Jews. And we got to move on here because I got to take a break. But But if the Trump-brokered ceasefire endures, their ranks, the anti-Semitic protesters, may shrink back to pre-October 7th levels, stripping the movement of the numbers that gave it national prominence. Trump's efforts to roll back anti-Semitism and DEI on campuses may help too. But university boards, donors, and alumni need to make a concerted effort to more fully transform faculty and staff, purge the Israel and Jew haters, and see that students are taught more accurate accounts of the Middle East. The success of Trump's multi-phase deal remains uncertain, but its political consequences at home are already visible, exposing the intellectual hollowness of a campus movement that has thrived on false binary narratives and perpetual conflict. As the war ends, the campus left will find itself without a rallying cry. I have another thing on this, and it's going to tie in with the No Kings protest and also tie in with some recent, I guess you'll say, updates, for lack of a better term, on the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So that'll be coming up here in just a moment. Let's take a break. I see a lot of comments coming in. I appreciate it. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Your tap water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
Hi, this is Till, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Elmira Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at WYDCTV.com.
The Big's website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking roof cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horses. Look at all that fog. Be careful on your way to school or your way into work. Looks like Halloween season out there. Thank you to Boss Security. Contact them today. All right, let's go to some viewer comments as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Sorry, just so many comments coming in. I thought I had them all. Okay, here we go. Mark writes in, sounds like the Republicans are caving if they want people to vote for Cuomo. Yeah, it's not a good sign when you start to see some of the talking points saying, well, Sliwa drop out. And then there's the next step to it where, I can't remember the exact headline, but Sliwa's checkered past comes back to haunt him. So now they're putting on that pressure campaign of saying, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You want us to bring this stuff up again? Do you want us to kind of drag you through the mud, or do you want to get out? So yes, I would agree with you, Mark. Comment from a different viewer. If Cuomo and the socialists cancel each other out, can't Sliwa end up with a majority of votes, possibly? Mathematically, it doesn't look that way because Mamadani, and Cuomo's numbers are so high compared to Sliwa's. I think Sliwa was at 19% or something. So I don't think it would work that way because it's not canceling out. I mean, you still have to get to the winning position there. So, no, I don't believe that is possible. street sweeper in the background. Comment from a different viewer. A lot of the political talk shows I listen to are constantly saying how bad of shape the Democrat Party is in. The party is so deeply embedded into the political machine, education system, and media that I think the, quote, "we are winning" talk drops the Republican momentum. All roads we are on now can easily be turned back around very quickly. I would agree with you. This, oh, no, we've got it made in the midterms mindset is a bad one. Because a couple things. It does take away the momentum. It takes away the drive for some people to go out and vote if they think that there's already a win coming. Also, let's just say Republicans say, I don't know, I'm going to make up some number. We're going to win 10 races. It's going to be a huge landslide. And then we win 9. It'd still be a huge win, right? But no, the media will say, oh, overwhelmed. They thought it was going to be, or underwhelmed, I'm sorry. They thought it was going to be such a decisive victory. So yeah, this whole idea of we are winning, I think is a little bit the media working to set up Republicans for failure. To make sure the turnout of the vote is low, to make people think everything's going to be fine next November. And then if it's not 100% in favor of Republicans, then they can say that it's a loss for Republicans. So I'm with you on that. I think it's way, way, way too early to say we are winning anything like that. All right, coming from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. You really don't want to know my thoughts on Cuomo because you're probably tired of hearing them, and there's no way you could speak those words on air. Well, thank you. I'm not tired of hearing them, but you're probably right. It seems that Trump, from what I gather, is lukewarm where Sliwa is concerned. I believe he even said that they had a sort of a love-hate relationship. Not sure what the reasons are. I'd rather have cats than rats in Albany. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm not sure why. That's a whole weird dynamic, that whole race, when it comes to Trump's involvement or lack thereof in the mayoral race. I know he said that if Mamdani wins, and Cuomo's been using this as a talking point, that he's basically going to take over as mayor. That's what Cuomo's saying. But no, he said he's going to step in to protect the people of New York. So that's kind of been where he stands. He hasn't endorsed anybody, Trump, that I know. Comment from a different viewer. Sounds like Stanford could use a healthy dose of Charlie Kirk's organization. I would agree with that. And finally, regarding Mr. Kirk, has it been determined if his murder was tied to any group? Well, it's interesting you say that. The trial is beginning soon. I actually saw a piece this morning, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but that's okay. Utah County prepares for the trial of Charlie Kirk, so we may learn, or a trial of Charlie Kirk murder suspect, so we may learn more in that. Local leaders deal with extra costs, national scrutiny, and complaints over spending taxpayer money on defense lawyers for the alleged shooter. This is a little bit biased, coming from the Wall Street Journal. Until Charlie Kirk was killed there last month, Utah County, Utah wasn't on the national radar. Unlike Salt Lake City, about an hour north, the partly agricultural district is home to alfalfa farm, dairies, and enough fruit orchards to earn the state second place in the country behind Michigan for tart cherry production. Okay, we're learning a little bit too much about this county. But officials say they have spent the past few weeks scrambling to come up with an estimated $5 million, equivalent to 3.3% of the county's $150 million general operating fund, that the projected years-long hearing will require. Years-long hearing. My goodness. So hopefully we learn more, to your point, if this person was connected in any other way to any other organizations. But it sounds like it is going to be a very long and lengthy trial and process. So we will keep you as updated on that as possible. I want to bring up one last thing about the anti-Israel protests, and we're going to tie that into actually more about Charlie Kirk and more about the No Kings rally. But I thought the New York Post put this perfectly. The pro-Palestinian crowd, and that's in quotations, that's what they try to call themselves, the pro-Palestine crowd must be the first peace movement ever to pray for war to resume. And I thought that was such a perfect way of putting that. The terrorists seem keen to pick up where they left off, attacking Israelis. This is reference to Hamas. And we're not going to go through all the ways that the peace, there's been hitches in the peace deal. And because that's what this piece really focuses on. But The usual suspects in the West howl that Israel has already broken the ceasefire dozens of times and seemed eager to proclaim that the peace plan, which they didn't like in the first place, had failed. The, quote, pro-Palestinian crowd must be the first peace movement ever to pray for war to resume. In the next phase of the peace plan, Hamas's combatants are supposed to lay down their arms and exit Gaza. But that's not happening anytime soon, at least not voluntarily. And who's going to make them do it? Now, what's interesting, we saw that Mamadani, just to tie this in with New York City, he would not call for Hamas to lay down their arms. Now, it says here, it wraps up, if pro-Palestine folks won't save them, how about some of the governments that just recognize that Palestinian state? Meaning Israel. Israel has every right to finish the job if Hamas won't go, but it has no duty to save the poor people of Gaza from the terrorists' rule. If pro-Palestinian folks won't save them, how about some of the governments that just recognize that Palestinian state? All right, when we come back, I just thought that was a powerful line. We've got other topics to discuss. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, and that's going to tie in with the No Kings protests over the weekend. Yes, the big question this morning, your thoughts on, so I saw an opinion piece at Fox News, I think it was Liz Peek, who said that, no. Oh, it was Hugh Hewitt. I'm sorry, it wasn't Liz Peek. That's a different opinion piece that I have. It was Hugh Hewitt. This doesn't really come as a surprise to me. In full disclosure, I think sometimes Hugh Hewitt's a little bit rhino-like. But he says, hey, New York City Republicans, vote for Cuomo for mayor. You have the New York Daily News telling Sliwa to drop out. Daily News is far left. But then you have the New York Post calling for him to step down. So your thoughts on that. But we got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Trick or treat.
Fall is in the air, and there's no better place to celebrate than Bradley Farms. Bring the whole family for games. Get lost in our giant cornfield maze. Hop on a scenic hayride. Photo ops and fall memories you'll never forget. Located at 1543 Maple Avenue in Elmira, New York. And pick the perfect pumpkin from our patch. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 9 a.m. until 10 p.m. Come on out to Bradley Farms, where fall fun takes root.
In 1904, a loaf of bread was 15 cents, a gallon of gas was 22 cents, and Cutler's Carpet and Flooring opened as a little store with a big red door. For 72 years, we've been your go-to floor covering store. With that kind of longevity, you know we have great service, best selection, best prices, and best installation. Celebrate our 72nd birthday where you get the presents. We've lowered prices on carpet, LVT, hardwood, ceramic tile, and do the home improvements you've been considering. Get your home ready for the holidays with Cutler's 72nd birthday sale. Cutler's, we have a buddy in the flooring business.
Alden and Missy face off in Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
I'm not feeling so good. Biohazard! Biohazard!
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A viewer writes in, President Donald Trump seemingly threw his support behind Republican candidate for governor Winsome Earl Sears Monday while speaking to reporters on Air Force One. Yeah, he's actually endorsed Winsome Earl Sears for the Virginia gubernatorial campaign. She's running against Abigail Spanberger. We talked about that a little bit. But he's endorsed her in the past, so I would have been shocked if it was anything different than that. Especially when you look at some of the comments and some of the history of Abigail Spanberger. All right, I know we talk about the education system very often, and saying how this anti-Semitic, these protests were encouraged by the supposed grown-ups in the room, the teacher, the faculty, these type of things. It's not just at the collegiate level. We'll talk about that in a second. But first, an Illinois State University graduate student who flipped a Turning Point USA table on campus, flipped it over, was arrested and fired from his teaching assistant position after a clip of the hot-headed move made waves online. So here's someone that was on track to be a teaching assistant. Derek Lopez, 27, was caught on camera last week storming over to the table for Turning Point USA, where students with Illinois State University's TPUSA chapter were advertising conservative comedian Alex Stein's October 20th event at the school. Lopez said, well, you know, Jesus did it, so you know I got to do it, right? As he ripped off the tablecloth, only to topple the table on its side. Now, this is in reference to Jesus overturning multiple tables inside of a Jewish temple and chasing out swarms of, quote, money changers and animal breeders he declared turned a house of prayer into a den of robbers. That's according to Matthew 21:12. Monday afternoon, the school confirmed that Lopez was removed from his role as a graduate teaching assistant. Quote, while Illinois State University does not comment specifically on personnel matters, we can confirm Derek Lopez has been relieved of his duty as a graduate teaching assistant pending further investigation. Teaching assistants at the public university, like many resident assistants nationwide, are paid through a monthly stipend instead of an hourly wage. The minimum a graduate teaching assistant in the master's program could be paid was boosted to $1,510 a month in August. Wow. According to the school's graduate assistant handbook. Assuming a student works the estimated 20 hours a week, that stipend would roughly translate to $19 an hour, $4 higher than the Illinois minimum wage. Lopez was arrested Friday and charged with disorderly conduct and criminal damage to property. Now, tying that in, did you see the Chicago elementary teacher who mocked Charlie Kirk's assassination at a No Kings protest? We're going to tell you about that when we come back, because we got to wrap up hour number one. Stay with us.
You lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.
It's a season of sharing.
Having a good time has always been my number one goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A comment from a viewer: Des Moines Public School Board Chair Jackie Norris, a former Michelle Obama chief of staff, withdrew her Democratic bid for Iowa's U.S. Senate seat after she was embroiled in a scandal involving the former superintendent, Ian Andre Roberts. We brought that story to you at the time. I had this story to mention last week when she officially stepped down, because she said something to the extent of she had, wasn't extreme, but it was some type of empathy for Ian Andre Roberts. Now, we learned that he was illegal here, an illegal immigrant. He had weapons charges, drug convictions, a whole bunch of questionable background resume, so to speak. But as this viewer says, Iowa is a vital swing state, and so this may have significant repercussions for the Senate in the future. Thank you very much. All right, so I mentioned this quickly. A Chicago-based elementary school teacher mocked Charlie Kirk's assassination by using a sickening gun gesture at a No Kings protest over the weekend. Lucy Martinez, a teacher at Nathan Hale Elementary School, put a finger to her neck and pretended to pull a trigger when a man driving by in a pickup truck had the audacity of waving a flag. Multiple demonstrators were seen very angry. I guess you can call it a counter-protester because they had a flag. It's unclear if Martinez was fired or faced any disciplinary action. The school's website was taken down after the incident surfaced online. Sounds like they're trying to weather the storm on that one. Chicago Public Schools said it, quote, remains committed to creating and maintaining a welcoming, safe, and inclusive teaching and learning environment free from harassment, bias, or harm of any kind. While CPS does not comment on specific personnel matters, the district follows a consistent process when allegations of misconduct are reported. Employees found to have violated board policy are subject to disciplinary action. It'll be interesting to see if there is any punishment there because, again, remember, this is an elementary school teacher. As one person posted, this is who we trust with our children, and then wonder why they become radicalized as adults. Ryan Forner, co-founder of Students for Trump, wrote, "This woman teaches children. Lucy is now the perfect face of the No Kings movement, a movement that preaches love but celebrates death. Evil always exposes itself." Elementary, folks. That's what I'm saying. When we can't just always point to college. It starts much younger, and that's why, and that also ties in with City Journal has an opinion piece, and it asks the question, why didn't more college leaders condemn Charlie Kirk's murder? That's a very good point. In 2020, college and university presidents lined up to issue statements about George Floyd's tragic death, despite the event's lack of any direct connection to higher education. They were much quieter after Charlie Kirk's horrific murder last month, even though the incident was a direct assault on the very purpose of their institutions. Kirk was assassinated as he debated students on a college campus. This heinous attack stoked concerns across American universities about safety and the free exchange of the ideas in academia. Yet only 17 out of 100 leaders of top colleges made public statements about it. In 2020, 94 of those institutions issued leadership-level statements about Floyd. So only 17 out of 100 leaders of top colleges weighed in on the assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus, debating college students. For years, university presidents have eagerly weighed in on social and political events, from the Dobbs decision to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, January 6th, October 7th. But when a conservative activist gets murdered on a university campus while engaged in peaceful debate, these same institutional leaders often fail to find the words to condemn his killing. I thought that was a startling but not surprising number. 17 out of 100 leaders of top colleges, no statement on this. And then, of course, we've seen the disgusting statements that some leaders and some teachers have posted. But ending on a positive note, Bible sales soaring since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Prior to September, sales of the Bible averaged around 1.5 million units per month in 2025. After the public assassination of Kirk, Bible sales shot up to 2.4 million. How about that? We got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with hour number 2 after this.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Lease a brand new 2025 Subaru Impreza Base all-wheel drive featuring alloy wheels and remote start for only $209 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Subaru in Big Flats.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app.
For the touchdown!
Yeah, yours. Your teams. Your highlights. Your scores. Your stories. Just choose your favorites to get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
And of course, stream your teams live. The best part is free with your pay TV subscription. Grab your
Welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we're going to be talking with Robert Siglin. He is running for Elmira City Court Judge, so that'll be in like I said, 15, 20 minutes. Tomorrow on the program, we will have Chemung County Sheriff Bill Schramm. Looking forward to talking with him. On Thursday, Jordan York, also running for Elmira City Court Judge. He will be joining us on Thursday. And Friday, Greg Tranter. He has, I think it's 8 books overall he's written. I think 4 on the Buffalo Bills. We're going to talk to him. Really looking forward to that. All right. We were talking about Turning Point USA. We were talking about that horrific gesture that elementary school teacher made at a No Kings rally. Glenn Harlan Reynolds has a good point, saying, watching the No Kings protest, a friend commented, democracy dies when the other side wins. Another rule they wouldn't want to have turned back on them. That does seem to be the animating spirit not only of the various marches around the country, but of the entire anti-Trump resistance. President Donald Trump's crime isn't anything he said or done or even believed, which all too often anti-Trump protesters can't even describe anyway. It's that he won, and he represents the other team. That is why he is a quote-unquote threat to democracy, because they lost, is the argument. As Batya Ungar Sargon put it, the No Kings rally isn't protesting Trump, but rather the agenda the majority of America voted for. The left isn't protesting a king, but their fellow Americans. They aren't standing up for democracy, they are protesting against it. That is entirely correct. Trump isn't a king. He's a popularly elected president who won in something of a landslide, delivering exactly the policies that he promised the electorate. His actions generally involve invoking various statutes acted into law by Congress over the past several decades. His enforcement of immigration laws and deportation of criminal aliens is very popular. His ending of DEI policies is also very popular. So is his slashing of federal payrolls and his cuts to foreign aid. Then there is cuts to federal regulations and his support for law enforcement. In fact, Trump is a king or dictator, as we're often told, whose actual program seemed to involve shrinking the government he heads. That's not the usual thing for autocrats. Kings inherit their jobs. Presidents are elected for a term. As Meghan McCain tweeted, I don't understand how Trump is a king when he won every single swing state, the Electoral College, and popular vote in a Democratic election. Legal scholar Ila Shapiro responded, no, he's a king by dismantling an administrative state that nobody voted for. Good point. That's Trump's real sin. Carrying out the will of the voters, doing, and because this is not typical of politicians, doing what he promised he would do during a campaign. Democrats know their policies are unpopular. That's why they have to lie about everything from immigration to affirmative action to gun control, especially in an election season. Democrats represent the administrative professional class, bureaucrats, educators, academics, media people, and of course, a huge gaggle of useless nonprofit and foundations and NGOs. Their true program is to move money and power into the hands of these groups and out of the hands of ordinary Americans, whom they regard with a mixture of fear and contempt. When Trump first took office in 2017, I noted that much of his opposition came from gentry liberals who suffered from status anxiety. They valued their position at the top of the social order and the respect they got for their expertise. Trump gave them no such respect and undermined their positions. Now it's much worse, of course. Trump 2.0 isn't just belittling them and ignoring their advice and demands. He's cutting off the money. He's not just a threat to their self-image now. He's a threat to their whole feedlot. The anger toward him is also explained by understanding that pretty much the entire post-World War II institutional arrangement was designed to ensure that voters don't get what they want. The administrative state makes regulations that have the force of law, but that no one gets to vote on. Important domestic policy decisions are turned over to international organizations that are accountable to no one, even as they scarf up U.S. taxpayer money. Justice Department attorneys abuse their power to prosecute political opponents of the system while protecting the system's made men and women. The No Kings protesters invoked Revolutionary War symbolism in support of their marches, but the true revolution here is that of Donald Trump, who's taking apart unaccountable powers and returning power to the people. No wonder they hate him. That was Glenn Harlan Reynolds. And Liz Peek said, Democrat fury fuels No Kings protest, but endgame is elusive. Yes. And especially, and I know to that viewer's point earlier, there's all these articles suggesting the Republicans have already won in the midterm. The Vance is already going to be president guaranteed. I think it's way too early for that. But some question the legality of Trump's attacks on alleged drug runners from Venezuela or to impose tariffs on our trading partners. His critics should be calmed by the intervention of the judiciary. Most of us have lost track of the number of lawsuits winding their way to the Supreme Court. It's not very king-like to have to answer to judges. Asked about the No Kings rally, the president said, I'm not a king. I work my you-know-what off to make our country great. And that is what is making Democrats crazy. Yes, that he's following through, shrinking the size of government, following through on the things that he promised he would do. That does not happen, Democrat or Republican, when there is someone running for president. They make their campaign promises, and then when they get in there, they completely change. It's historic. I'm not making that up. So I think that's one of the reasons why the No Kings protest, so many people are worked up, because he is making good on those promises, and they don't like what those promises were. Now, according to Ingrid Jacquis, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that right, at USA Today, said, don't count on a blue wave in the midterms. Most Americans are saying that Democrats are weak. Democrats continue getting historically low marks among voters, and it is hard to see them turning things around by November of next year. Now, keep in mind, November of next year is a long way away in the world of politics. And this is why I think to that viewer, I don't like the we've already won mindset, but they are having a very, very difficult time with messaging. Even with the government shutdown, they do not seem to be on the winning side of their discussion. I mean, amongst their own supporters. But it's very hard to sell a $1.5 trillion bill when all Republicans have been saying is we want a clean continuing resolution to get us to November 21st. I think it was 21st. But anyway, we'll talk about that in just a second. The polling right now shows a grim outlook for Democrats. Democrats have spent much of 2025 trying to dust off their defeats and figure out how to stay relevant in a federal government they no longer control. The problem is most Americans aren't impressed with what they're seeing. Democrats continue getting historically low marks among voters. The Democrat Party was in a much better position to take back Congress during President Trump's first term, and it's helpful to compare where the party is now versus their standing in 2017. The lead Democrats had ahead of the 2018 midterm elections isn't there now. A recent analysis of polling data by NBC shows what a pickle Democrats are in ahead of next year's midterms. Of course, in the next year, many things could change for Democrats and Republicans. As of now, however, the wave Democrats achieved in 2018 looks out of reach. And I'm not going to read the numbers for you from the NBC News polling. We did a little bit of that last week. But as an aside, for the liberals who like to point and laugh at Trump's approval ratings, some perspective is in order. Since the end of July, Trump's second-term approval is higher than that of former President Barack Obama and George W. Bush at the same time during their second term. Keep that in mind. But that's what they like to go to. Not only is the party unpopular, the Democrat Party, an October CBS News YouGov poll found 64% of those surveyed used weak as the top word to describe Democrats. So what's a Democrat to do? The answer seems to be fight and resist. Congressional Democrat leaders are banking that the ongoing government shutdown will make them look tough and strong. Yet forcing the government to a standstill is always a risky move. It's already starting to sour for Democrats. At first, voters seem to pin more of the blame on Republicans and Trump. That gap is narrowing quickly, given that it is pretty obvious it's the Democrats' fault for not signing on to a simple bill that would keep the government running while the parties work out their differences. And the media isn't covering it, but Republicans have done a good job of getting out that message. Only 6 points now separate the Republicans, 39%, from the Democrats, 33%, as to which party deserves the shutdown blame. Over the weekend, Democrats went into full resistance mode with a second round of No King protests across the country. Protest, think back to the Women's March, from Trump's first term, did seem to encourage Democrats to the polls. But this new iteration of the marches doesn't appear to hold quite the same fervor. Democrats may detest Trump, but that alone will not build the wave they'll need in 2026, because it didn't help them, if you think about it, last November either. They thought that just blaming or pushing hatred of Trump was enough to get them across the finish line, and we see where we're at. Speaking of the shutdown, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said Monday he opposes a Senate Republican bill to extend pay to troops and some federal workers during the government shutdown. This coming from far-left Axios. Again, House Minority, keep this in mind, when Republicans put forth a clean, continuing resolution just to keep the government funded at the rates they were currently funded at, Hakeem Jeffries is opposed to a bill put forth by Senate Republicans to extend pay to troops and some federal workers during the shutdown. Jeffries' opposition suggests the legislation would have a tough time passing the House if it makes it out of the Senate. An issue for Democrats is that the bill only pays those workers who have not been furloughed as part of the government shutdown. Speaker Johnson told reporters Monday that he would bring the bill up for a vote in the House if it passes the Senate. Senate Majority Leader John Thune placed the Shutdown Fairness Act on the Senate calendar last week, teeing it up for a vote as soon as this week. The bill would allow government funding to go to providing back pay and ongoing wages to military service members and essential federal workers. Thune has signaled he wants to put the bill up for a vote, in part to squeeze Senate Democrats after they voted down a different military pay bill last week. Jeffries said at a press conference, it's my understanding that this is not a comprehensive bill that actually is designed to reopen the government while at the same time addressing the issue that needs to be confronted. It's not legislation that I support, but it appears to be more like a political ploy to pick and choose, giving Donald Trump discretion which employees should be compensated. You know, this is a huge pet peeve of mine, but it happens so frequently where you'll have a Democrat say, so many people have been telling me privately, so many Republicans tell me privately that they're losing the shutdown battle or that they really do support this bill. It's a story as old as time. It's a lie as old as time. Senator Jeff Merkley was on CNN's The Source yesterday, and he said so many Republicans had come over to the Democrats to agree they were right to fight the extended health care subsidies to illegal aliens to reopen the government. Now, maybe so many means one, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I still can't figure that one out myself. Jeff Merkley saying it's the Republican strategy of saying we're not going to address the health care crisis. And just over the last few days, many states have put out their prices on health care for the next year on the exchange. It's more than doubling across the nation. On average, a lot of folks won't be able to afford insurance. Even a lot of folks who buy off the exchange are going to see double-digit increases in their premiums. We've had so many Republicans come over to us and say, we know how hard this is hitting. And by the way, 75% of those folks affected, those are in states Trump won. So they're coming over and saying, we don't want this to happen to our constituents. This was a bad deal that we did. And we say, we'll go to your leadership and tell them to sit down and start negotiating. So many Republicans going over and saying, hey, where's my buddy Jeff Merkley? I want to tell him that I agree with him. Please keep it secret, though. I wonder why those Republicans aren't more vocal other than Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's a story as old as time. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Want to read about ancient wonders? Go to your local library today. But this isn't your father's library. It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer or face off a dragon in the D&D club. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Create with the 3D printer or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the Army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We got to, yes, I know I'm running late because we've got Robert Stiglin coming in just about 3-4 minutes. So let's read all your viewer comments. So many great comments here. The people that complain about Trump, why don't they complain about the governor, Governor Hochul? She is the queen. We have been in one-party rule for years. Just a thought, will they speak up? Well, the answer is, no. But that's the way it is. I mean, she's pushing forth the far-left agenda. They're happy with that. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I'm sorry, what am I missing? Why isn't there a Republican running for mayor of New York City? Always a good show, Frank. Well, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. There is. Curtis Sliwa is the Republican, and today's topic in the mainstream media anyway is calling for him to step down so that it'll be a two-person race between Mamdani and Cuomo, because the line of thinking here is that Cuomo is the only person that may have a chance of beating the socialist. I don't even agree with that mindset, but we've had Republicans, Hugh Hewitt, whatever you think of his Republican status, he's calling for Republicans to vote for Cuomo. So there is one, Curtis Sliwa. He's not getting any real attention. Only attention he's been receiving is to call for him to step aside. All right, comment from a different viewer. Morning, Frank. A little off topic. Okay. Good morning, too. The cloud that Amazon has been down for a while now. Any word when it will be back up? Well, they reported last night, if I'm not mistaken, that it was back up. And it affected a lot of things, even something as simple as Wordle, these type of things, all the way up to Amazon. But it said around, when was it? I thought it said that they were back up. I had a piece on this earlier, and I don't have it in front of me. In the evening, about 15 hours after the trouble began, Amazon said it had returned to normal operations, so you shouldn't be having those type of problems. Amazon was down, Snapchat, Venmo, Reddit, so many different things. So yes, appreciate that. Thank you for, I don't mind changes of direction. Comment from a different viewer. If Trump is making all these cuts, how come budget numbers are not coming down towards a more balanced budget? That's a great question. Comment from a different view. I don't have an answer. Comment from a different viewer. Wow, Glenn's statement is right on target, and that was Glenn Harlan Reynolds. Thank you for reading that. That was what was the guy's last name again? So Glenn Harlan, Harlan, and Reynolds. I want to look that statement up online and broadcast it everywhere. Thank you for reading that. Yes, you're welcome. You are welcome. I thought it was a good one, too. That's why I put it aside. All right, Mark writes in, Trump has done more in 10 months than most presidents have done in their whole 4-year term, and the Dems can't handle it. It is shocking when you think it's only been 10 months. 10 months in a day, right? Sworn in on January 20th. 10 months in a day. And think of how much has been accomplished. Yes, it's been a busy less than a year. I would agree. Finally, KJP just left the Democrat Party to become an independent. I also think to help sell a couple books. Imagine that. Karine Jean-Pierre was the White House press secretary under Biden from 2022 to 2025. She's also a prominent figure in the Democrat Party, having served as senior advisor to the Biden campaign. Now she is distancing herself from Biden, his administration, the Democrat Congress, and the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is dead. No leaders, no message, no moral compass, lots of fraud, misappropriation of funds, radical spending, all pointing to Democrat Congress, found by Doge, defending illegal migrants, gangbangers, and now an auto pen scandal. Rest in peace, Democrats 2025. Yes, she said she never saw anything in this new book. She's leaving the Democrat Party, go to independent. She said she never saw anything that would be of concern about about Biden's mental health when she was working for him. Kind of questioning. You want to question that, don't you? Say, no, I never saw anything. Okay. We, who didn't work with him day in and day out, we saw it, but you didn't. Interesting. We got to take a break. Robert Stiglin coming up after this. He's running for Elmira City Court Judge. Stay with us. We'll be... What time is it? I'm running so late. We'll be right back.
Your tap water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Lease a brand new 2026 Nissan Rogue SV all-wheel drive featuring heated seats and heated steering wheel for only $359 a month for 36 months. Make carbine simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Nissan in Horseheads and Hornell.
Everyone has a ritual, that small thing that keeps us focused.
A habit we never skip to clear our minds and elevate our performance.
But what do you do to keep your head in the game? To drown out that self-doubt and support your mental health. Because being your best isn't just about taking care of your body.
It's about taking care of your mind and your mental health.
Discover the resources that you need to keep your mind focused and your mental health a priority.
Is this your mom?
Yes.
And that's your dad?
Nope.
Don't do that. I'm not your auntie, I'm your mother.
Can't cross mama and come in here and get treated nice. Your case is dismissed and so are you.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We're broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio this morning, independent candidate for Elmira City Court Judge. Robert, thanks so much for being on the program.
Hey, Frank, thank you so much for having me.
So I want to get to your background and why you ran and all that. But let's start kind of at the basic. How's the campaign been going?
The campaign's been good.
Good.
It's a local year, so quite frankly,
we're going to get to that question later.
Okay, but it's one of those things where people aren't really that interested and that's any election, but till a few weeks before. But I definitely have noticed a lot more engagement, a lot more people being interested in the election. Now, back in March, going out getting signatures, not many people were that interested.
Or answering their door. Or
Exactly. Exactly. A lot of Ring cameras. But, I think that there's always that certain percentage of the population that comes out and votes and cares. And hopefully there are 3 people running. And I do hope that people take an interest in it, because who becomes city court judge, it's a 10-year term. It's not a 4-year term. It's a long time. And so whatever decision is made, that's your decision for 10 years. So it is a big commitment, but I do have faith in the public, and I do think they'll come out and be heard on who should be the next city court judge.
Yeah, that's something that I'm glad you stressed that, because 10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And if you're so busy that day, that means whoever you choose to either vote for or not vote for or stay at home, it's 10 years you have that person as a judge.
Yeah.
A lot can happen in 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, few decisions in life have consequences for 10 years.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So I do think it's important.
That's a great point. Now, I mentioned that you're an independent candidate. The line that you're on is Elmira First, and we talked about petitions. How does that process work, just out of my curiosity, when you're on an independent line like Elmira First?
So when you're on an independent line, you create the name of the party.
Okay.
So I created the Elmira First Party. My thought with that is that I do think Elmira needs to come first, not politics, not parties, not anything like that, just what's best for the community, what's best for the citizens, and that's why I chose Elmira First. But then you go out and you can get signatures from any party, or blanks, or independents, and so it's not like if you're carrying a Republican or a Democratic, you can only get signatures from those parties.
Right,
so in that respect, the independent line means you can talk to anybody, and so it's a broader grouping of people you can talk to. And actually, I felt the most comfortable getting the independent, because I would usually lead with, and it's something I believe wholeheartedly in, is that judges shouldn't be political, and that any political influence over judges impacts democracy and threatens justice. And I'll be honest with you, the feedback I got on that was incredible. I mean, I'd say 95% of the people, regardless of what party they were, agreed with that statement. So hopefully that answers your question. But it is, you just have a broader group of people with differing ideas. And so it's different, but I actually enjoyed the process.
Yeah. Well, isn't it interesting? Because if you were victorious and you get 10 years on the bench, this is about the only time as a judicial candidate that you can talk politics.
Oh, yeah.
The next 10 years, you can't go to a fundraiser, you can't come on the show and keep us updated on how things are going. The whole judicial campaign is quite strange to me, that it's even Republican, Democrat.
Yeah. And I've experienced it firsthand, because I was the Republican commissioner of the Board of Elections in Chemung County. Did a lot with politics before that, but then I was appointed by the governor in 2016 to be a commissioner's hearing officer inside the prison, which is a judge. And now I'm an administrative law judge. But as soon as I took that position, I had to remove myself from being the commissioner and stay away from anything political. And it is an interesting rule, but I do think it's important, because again, judges are supposed to be independent.
100%. Now, you gave a little bit of it away there, but tell us about your background, which is probably what I should have started with.
That's okay. Sorry to jump ahead, but
no.
Well, I grew up in Elmira, born and raised in Elmira, graduated from Elmira Southside High School, went to Ithaca College, eventually went to Syracuse University, got a law degree, also got a master's in political science from the Maxwell School at Syracuse, which is bragging a little, it's the #1 public policy school in the country. But then I came back to Elmira, got married, had kids, have 3 kids now, 19, 17, and 15. But came back, started working at Chemung County DSS. There I prosecuted juvenile delinquents, also neglect, child abuse cases, things like that. Worked on some campaigns, one Peter Finnerty for city court judge, the other was Whedon Wetmore for district attorney. When Whedon won, I did go to the DA's office. I worked there for a few years. Then I went into private practice at Kaiser Maloney and Winter. Then went and started my own law office, and then eventually was appointed by the governor to be the commissioner's hearing officer inside of a prison, which again is essentially a judge inside the prison. Prisoners or people, incarcerated individuals, have rules they have to follow inside the prison.
I would hope.
Yeah. Anything from, following a direct order to, murder, and I've had murder cases, attempted murder cases, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on inside the prison. So I'd done that for 8 years, and then in I think May 2024 had the opportunity to come out, leave the prison, and be an administrative law judge doing parole revocation hearings. So I've been doing that ever since.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a resume.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, how much different is it being a judge in the prison than if you were to be victorious in November?
That's a great question. Inside the prison, I'm the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense attorney. It's me sitting about as far away from an incarcerated individual as we're sitting right now.
Yeah.
And I'm the judge. I have to make the decisions. I also was the prosecutor. I had to call the witnesses, line them up, get them there, while simultaneously being cognizant of their rights and making sure that their individual rights are protected. So wearing 3 hats at once, and then at the end being the one that makes the final decision.
Wow. That's a lot of responsibility.
It is a lot, and it's quite frankly, it's a very scrutinized position because every decision was combed over because the Department of Corrections does want everything to be fair.
Of course.
And so every decision was picked over, but again, that just sharpens your skills and your ability and helps you do a better job.
Now, obviously, you have, like I said, a busy resume. Why did you decide to run to take up this responsibility?
Well, primarily because it's an opportunity that comes along once every 10 years.
Right.
First of all, second of all,
yeah, you've got to pull the trigger fast on that one, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I do love my job. It's a lot of travel, and I do. I'm in Binghamton, Ithaca. I've been up to Rochester, Syracuse, been in the bigger cities and done my job. But I've always. Obviously, Elmira's home to me. I love Elmira, and I have a special place in my heart for it. I think a lot of special people have come out of Elmira, including like Eileen Collins, Tommy Hilfiger. Of
course.
And I just think there's something special there. And when the opportunity to maybe use my skills that I've garnered over the years to use that where I was born and raised, it just felt like the right thing to do and something that I wanted to do. And also give the people a choice, another choice, an option to more than just 2 candidates and see what happens. And hopefully they choose me, but if they don't, I love my job as it is right now. But I would also, I am committed and really would love to give back to my community that I grew up in.
Now, we've had numerous judicial candidates on the program through the years, and it gets a little confusing for people. What would your responsibilities be as Elmira City Court judge?
All right. In Elmira City Court, you're dealing primarily with misdemeanor and violation level criminal cases. So there's a criminal side, which is pretty big. Then you also have small claims matters between citizens or businesses and things like that. You have landlord-tenant issues. There's a lot of very localized issues that come before Elmira City Court. Now, most of it, like I said, or a large majority, is criminal stuff, but it's civil cases, it's landlord-tenant cases, it's animal control cases. Oh, wow. There's a lot of different cases that kind of that touch every part of society. So there's a lot of very local issues that are addressed on a daily basis.
When you look at the Elmira City Court right now, do you have any, I guess for lack of a better word, goals or issues you'll be focusing on to maybe streamline the process? Just kind of your look at that job.
Yeah. Yes, I do think I run a very efficient court. I don't like to waste people's time.
Right.
That is a high volume court at times, so it is difficult to move things, but I don't like to waste people's time. I'd like to get in, get out, address things, of course, be thorough with the cases, but try to move things along. And one thing that has come to mind recently is that if I can, and I'm not even sure exactly how it works, but I think a more transparent court system would be beneficial. And I say that because even as an attorney, when I wanted to figure out what a disposition was in a case, it seemed like it needed to act to Congress to figure out what happened. And this is all supposed to be public record.
Yeah.
So I think that any way I could make it more transparent to the public, I think would be beneficial. But also, working with the other judge. Right now it's Peter Finnerty, who I think does an excellent job. I've known him for a very long time. I was a partner with him at Kaiser Maloney and Winter, campaign manager at one point. But I hear that he does a phenomenal job, and I think 2 judges working together can really make for a very efficient
streamline.
Yeah.
Really streamline it. Is there a backlog still? You talked about maybe not being able to get some information going back to the COVID days, because we heard early on in the show that was such a kind of a nightmare to come back from that.
Yeah, I think that was a very difficult situation for the court system to handle.
Yeah.
And then you started doing some remote things, but I'm not sure about backlogs and cases. I couldn't really speak to that at this
Well,
point
sure,
in time.
yeah,
But I think really when you're a judge and you're handling cases, you make it clear. There's a prosecutor, they give an offer. Defense either takes it or not. And if they don't take it, I can give my 2 cents on what I think should be done. But again, I'm not going to strong arm people. I'll be the judge, let the other people do their jobs. But we're not going to endlessly adjourn. That just drags things out, makes the calendar clogged, and move things along while also being very cognizant of justice and making sure justice is occurring. But it's a balance, of course. But I think that moving things along and making sure that people are prepared, and if they're not prepared, making it very clear you need to come to court prepared, because again, people don't want to come to court 5, 6, 7 times often. And so, and even jurors and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of sitting around, and again, people have places to go. And if they're going to come to jury duty, which is a huge duty and is very important, they're going to be treated decently and try to move it along so they're not losing days at work and things like that, because jury duty does not pay what your normal job pays. And so I'm very cognizant of the public and how it needs to be efficient for them, but also efficient for the people involved, and just try to move things along as quickly as possible, because I, as a prosecutor, was in Elmira City Court, and I would stand there from 8 o'clock sometimes till 6 p.m. No breaks, nothing, and that's just the way that it was. And the judge at that time would pontificate a lot and had a lot of extracurricular discussions. A lot of it was very entertaining, but again, it makes for a long day. And people sitting out in the out in the audience.
It's already tough to get people to do jury duty, unfortunately, but let's make it easy on them.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely, because it's such a huge, important part of the justice system.
And responsibility that are on people's shoulders, and you hear of some of the kind of horror stories when it comes to jury duty and how long they've spent. And yeah, I'm with you. I think that a lot of people would support that. So you mentioned that you went out and got petitions. I'm sure you're knocking on doors. What have voters been saying to you?
Voters, the ones that have seem to be most interested in the job, and let's be clear, not everybody really seems to care that much.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, people have expressed to me like and maybe it's just the political climate overall, but really have stated that they don't think politics should be involved in the court system. They've expressed concerns about, sometimes how it feels unfair, like if they're just the average citizen and they're going against somebody with political connections, they don't necessarily think it's even footing, which again is something I have no patience for. If we're in court, everybody's going to be on the same playing field, no favorites ever, and it doesn't matter who's on what side, because my commitment 100% is to the law, to the Constitution, to the Bill of Rights. Even if I don't like the law, that's my job to apply the law as it's written. It's not my job to change the law. So I think, generally speaking, those who really have an opinion about it, usually it's a little bit, they've had a bad experience one way or the other. So, but a lot of people just, and thankfully, don't go in front of the court, so they don't have that strong of an opinion.
Right. Where can people, just before we go, where can people find out more if they want to help your campaign, get a yard sign, something like that? Where can they go?
Well, I primarily am on Facebook. Elect Robert Siglin, Elmira City Court Judge. Can be contacted through there. All my information's there. There's plenty of videos. I try to address as many issues as possible, because it is hard to get to every single house.
Of course.
And a lot of times people aren't home, or there's Ring cameras. And I have a little thing I say on those. But at the end of the day, if people, and I really do, I think this is an election where people really should take the time to take a look at the qualifications of the different people. It probably would take 15, 20 minutes, because all 3 candidates are on Facebook. But I do think that my experience really does stand out from the crowd. And if they look at the experience of all the candidates, that I think they'll realize that I'm uniquely qualified for this job because of the judicial experience and being inside of a prison and seeing the criminal justice from that angle, plus also years as a prosecutor and significant time as a defense attorney. So the perspective on the criminal justice system, I just don't think many people have similar perspective.
I agree. How do you get out the vote? That's the $1 million question, because you've been dealing with it, I'm sure, all season.
And when I worked on campaigns, you wanted to get the vote out, but you wanted to get your voters out.
Right, exactly.
And it's difficult. And I think usually the big turnouts are when there's like a presidential, there's a governor, there's a bigger race that draws people out, and then they'll vote for everything that's on the ballot. Right. Here, we don't have any of that. So I think that all candidates are going to try to get their people out. I just think the public has to care, and that's why I put so much on Facebook. That's why I'm here talking to you.
Right, of course.
Hopefully people do take the time, and even if they don't vote for me, I really would be grateful to see a pretty good turnout, just to show that people care enough to come out and vote, because it is a really important position.
Yeah, the goal right now is a respectable turnout. That's pretty sad.
I know.
Before we go, what would you say to voters before they either start early voting, which starts on Saturday, or if they go to the booth on Election Day?
Well, I would say that I think that I'm the most qualified candidate based upon my experience. I also think that there's something to be said for a person who comes in who's beholden to nobody. In this instance, I'm not beholden to a political party. I'm not beholden to any politicians. I'm not beholden to any special interests. So the only way I view someone who could walk in and be a judge and actually do their job is to come in day one owing nobody anything. And people may disagree, but I feel confident that I am the only candidate that is not beholden to anyone other than the rule of law and the citizens of the community.
Well, Robert, thanks so much for being on the program, and let me say best of luck.
All right, thanks, Frank. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Of course. All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
It's 10 p.m. somewhere. Do you know what your kids are doing online? Brought to you by Ferrario Jeep.
This isn't your library. Create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine riddles, all with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
This is a Collector Consumer Alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you to Robert Siglin for being on the program this morning. We really appreciate it. Tomorrow on the show, we'll be talking with Chemung County Sheriff Bill Schramm. Looking forward to that. And then on Thursday's program, Jordan York. He's also running for Elmira City Court Judge. And then on Friday, Greg Tranter. He's got a couple books out on the Buffalo Bills. Really looking forward to it. You'll really like this interview. Trust me. All right, let's go to viewer comments. Robert mentioned animal control, and which made me think of the following. Given those losers that have and continue to celebrate the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I have to wonder if they also celebrated the murder of Peanut. Oh, that story. Just wondering about the mindset of these losers. Yeah, that's a good point. I almost forgot about the story of Peanut. We bring it up quite often. Comment from a different viewer. As a Republican, I listen to others, consider the facts of a discussion, and decide what is right. So far, I have not heard any single argument that Democrats have made that would cause me to agree with anything they offer. They are on the wrong side of every single issue. Thank you very much. And Ken writes in, I would bet that if you looked inside the nightstands by the beds of the Democrats in office, the Dem candidates for office, the wealthy Dem benefactors, and the talking heads in the legacy media, you would find their guidebook on how to get and maintain power and wealth. Saul Alinsky's book, Rules for Radicals. It lays out in great detail how to defeat your political opponents, and not once does it mention adopting policies that will be popular with the American people. It basically says to do exactly as the Democrats are doing. Demonize your opponent and repeat it incessantly until the masses believe it. Alinsky is clear on what he wanted to achieve, turning America into a socialist country. Thank you for that. And just to tie this in, because I already have to take a break because I ran late with Robert, but just to tie that in with the government shutdown, at the Hill, they write, at the heart of the Democrats' dilemma is an inability to articulate their own path forward, as they are steadfast in opposing Trump's agenda, but are not communicating their own credible and attractive alternative. This oppose at all costs strategy has extended to the government shutdown. Although Democrats remain unified in their opposition, they are foregoing an opportunity to offer an issues-driven agenda of their own. At the same time, Democrats' belief that Republicans, as the party in power, would shoulder an outsized share of the blame appears to be less true than they had hoped. 58% blame Trump and Republicans, but 54% also blame Democrats, according to an AP NORC poll. Basically, it wraps up with, make no mistakes, this does not mean Democrats should roll over and let Trump steamroll them with his agenda. Democrats need to be able to fight for issues at the core of the party, such as protecting Social Security and Medicare. However, no progress can be made on these or other issues unless and until Democrats begin addressing these challenges with an agenda of their own, rather than merely resisting Trump and Republicans' agenda. Stephen Collinson writes, what's happening to end the government shutdown? Nothing. Democrats are talking to their voters who are desperate to fight. Republicans barely reach beyond their base. And President Trump, supposedly the world's greatest deal maker, is tuned out. This explains why no end is in sight to our government shutdown, now tied for the second longest ahead of Trump's expected departure for Asia at the end of the week for summits. There's no sign he'll emulate his first predecessor, Barack Obama, who canceled a tour of the region in 2013 because of a similar stalemate. Yet the costs of the partial closure of federal operations are escalating. We don't need to get into all that. But they're not changing their tactic. All right, when we come back, we've got some New York State issues, because I know we've been kind of skirting around the issue of Sliwa all morning, talking about it but not really going in depth. We also have, well, I'm going to run late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Want to read about ancient wonders? Go to your local library today. But this isn't your father's library. It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer or face off a dragon in the D&D club. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Create with the 3D printer or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
Lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan. Water you love.
Shopping Ollie's First means saving up to 70% off fancy store prices every day. To demonstrate, we gave shopper A $100 to go shop a fancy store. We sent shopper B to Ollie's. As they say, the proof is in the cart.
Nobody says that.
And yet, I just did. The brands you know and trust, all up to 70% off. Ollie's!
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments here. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Rick. I saw the AI cartoon Trump published of himself flying a fighter jet and dumping, on No King's Day protesters. Cute, but it only showed me that Trump is full of it. Didn't we already know that? Court for everything. Why is it everything Trump does, has done, and wants to do ends up in court? I'm leaning on 70, and I have never seen anything like this ever. If it ends up in court, it must be on the line or over the line. Portland is not burning. It's a lie. Comey's charges will be dropped as they should be. Trump has called him every name in the book and constantly says he'll get him, but his big mouth blows it for him again. Gigantic mouth, no results. And last complaint, a ballroom. Really? Who needs a ballroom? This is 2020. Build a concert hall. Have Springsteen in. Oops. I don't think he'd show up for Trump. He definitely wouldn't. Don't let Trump, we'll say, rain on your parade. Thank you, Rick. Comment from a different viewer. I'm 100% opposed to Mamdani. I don't really understand or know much about Curtis Sliwa, but I don't think that he can possibly be worse than Cuomo. That said, is Cuomo one step above a communist, and will he keep Sharia law from taking over New York City? And it sickens me to even be thinking this way. I don't know if people realize just how vulnerable we are, but I've been told that I'm an overthinker, so please, I'll be happily comforted if y'all tell me the same thing. Well, it seems like the common refrain is, even from some moderate Republicans, is that Cuomo would be better than Mamdani and that he has a better chance than Sliwa of winning. I don't always agree with the common refrains from the media, but we're going to talk about it. Ken writes in, it would be of great benefit to the American people if the same rules that apply to judges on not being political after being elected applied to all local, state, and federal officials and lawmakers. We elect these people to work as a team in the best interest of the American citizen, not to feather their own beds. Thank you, Ken. Now, just quickly to talk about New York, just because that viewer had mentioned Sliwa. The New York Post editorial board says, swallow the bitter pill, Curtis Sliwa. Quit the race to stop Zohran Mamdani. Sliwa is absolutely right that it's not his fault that New York is in this corner. But fault isn't the issue here. The simple fact is that the Republican nominee is far back in third place in every poll with zero chance of winning. Polls show Andrew Cuomo in spitting distance of Mamdani if Sliwa quits the race. If Curtis stays in and Andrew loses by a Sliwa-shaped hole, then he will be blamed. Plenty of readers will erupt in fury at this, and we get it. No one will confuse this page or the New York Post as a whole for being Cuomo fans. That's not the issue either. In a dire situation, we've got to deal with the facts as they are, ugly as they are. Moving forward, and with no disrespect to Curtis Sliwa, if the Republican Party wants to be a viable alternative to the Democrats for citywide office, it has to do better. Sliwa has worked hard in this run, getting well briefed on all the issues, showing up every day all over the city, and even setting aside his proud red beret. But he is an oddball, with a sometimes shady past and zero experience relevant to running the behemoth that is city government. Yet the GOP's county bosses lined up firmly behind Sliwa. If Republicans had come up with a more credible candidate with a second line less eccentric than protect animals, we'd likely now be demanding that Cuomo drop out of the race. But the fact remains that Mamdani is poised to win and do major deadly damage to the lives of all New Yorkers. He must be stopped. It stinks, but for the sake of the city you love so deeply, Curtis, please swallow this bitter pill. The New York Daily News, though farther left, of course, or far left, where the Post is considered more conservative, says if Sliwa cares about New York City and not just himself, it's time to drop out of the mayor's race. The bottom line is that after nearly a half century in the limelight with the Guardian Angels, everyone has always called him Curtis, but no one will ever call him mayor. Curtis, do what must be done and listen to what your friend John says. I think Curtis would be a hero if we beat Zohran. We got to take our last break and wrap up. Get your last second comments in, and we'll be right back.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
In 1904, a loaf of bread was 15 cents, a gallon of gas was 22 cents, and Cutler's Carpet and Flooring opened as a little store with a big red door. For 72 years, we've been your go-to floor covering store. With that kind of longevity, you know we have great service, best selection, best prices, and best installation. Celebrate our 72nd birthday where you get the presents. We've lowered prices on carpet, LVT, hardwood, ceramic tile, and do the home improvements you've been considering. Get your home ready for the holidays with Cutler's 72nd birthday sale. Cutler's, we have a buddy in the flooring business.
Well, it's strained.
It is?
It's a repetitive motion injury. Do you do this a lot?
Well, I do give out a lot of checks. Now, what about this pain in my back?
Tender, huh? Do you play any contact sports?
Thank you.
Wow!
That explains it. Stick to friendly nods for the next couple of weeks.
In a few words, Urkel, glasses, nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5 and 5. And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. A couple viewer comments. Sliwa's argument for not dropping out of the race is that Cuomo and Mamdani are the same. Thank you for that. Mark writes in, if Cuomo loses the mayoral position, can't he still run for governor against Hochul? He could. Why do you think that's going to happen? He would have to make moves here pretty quickly. But yes, I guess either way he could, actually. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Can't wait to pick up KJP's book next year when it's a fill a bag for $1 day. I'll get it along with Kamala's, Comey's, and Hillary's. Great for do-it-yourself projects. Thank you very much. Just to mention, because I think it was Rick who mentioned it, demolition did begin on the east wing of the White House for Trump's new $250 billion. You can tell I've been talking politics for too long. $250 million ballroom. You can find the photos at the New York Post. As I had mentioned all morning long, Hugh Hewitt said, hey, New York City Republicans, vote for Cuomo for mayor. Now, Hugh Hewitt, well, I'm not going to get into some of the problems I've had with him in the past, but he is, and in full disclosure, I interviewed him, I think, a couple times back in the past, but he always has some interesting Republican take. I remember he said at the time the only way that Donald Trump could win back in 2016 is if he picked Chris Christie as his VP. But now he's saying New York City is too important to the country to conduct a vast social studies experiment on it. Republicans, you can make a difference in this election. Don't vote for the ruination of New York City just because you would enjoy the laughs a radical left-wing Marxist would bring in its wake. Republicans, vote for Cuomo if you try to sell your house or condo if Mamdani wins. Lower the asking price in your head right now. The smart money isn't going to stick around to watch how it doesn't work out for Mamdani. All right, one last thing, and we don't have time to read it, but I would highly recommend, and I'm going to talk about it tomorrow with Chemung County Sheriff Bill Schramm. There is a great piece at the New York Post in their editorial board saying that Raise the Age is ruining the lives of New York's kids, a generation of kids who become career criminals before they can even vote. And they give specific examples of this. We've talked about the dangerous nature of tying the hands of police and, of course, coddling criminals. That's exactly what Raise the Age does. This is the reverse of true compassion. Lawmakers must drastically revise Raise the Age before it ruins an entire generation. That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Oh, here's a comment from a viewer. I'll never forget Cuomo's words. We were never that great. Yes, as a country. I remember him saying that about America. Thank you for that reminder. Thank you to Robert Siglin for being on the program this morning. I appreciate that. He's running for Elmira City Court Judge. Tomorrow on the program, Chemung County Sheriff Bill Schramm will be joining us. Thursday, Jordan York, who's also running for Elmira City Court Judge, will be joining us. And Friday, Greg Tranter will be telling us about his new book about the greatest games ever played at what will now be called the Bills' old stadium. We'll be talking with him on Friday. And don't forget Saturday, just for fun, early voting begins. All right, we will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with Frankly Speaking only on WYDC TV. Big Fox, I look forward to it already. Have a great day, everyone.